Welcome to the iScaf lift control tutorial. The lift control feature allows greater flexibility to set scaffold lifts and scaffold decks to any level and can be changed on a bay-to-bay basis. From the section drawing on the screen, we can see the difference between a standard iScaf section drawing without lift control on the left and an iScaf section drawing with lift control being used on the right. As you can see, we're able to put some decks on some levels and still have some with no decks. We're also able to have different spacing between each level, and it has been drawn according to how we define the lift control. This lift control example shows decks with spacing 3 meters apart. I will now show you how we can set up lift control and make a drawing using this feature. To do this, you can either click on the left control icon right here or go into iScaf, Build, Lift Control. The fast grid on the left represents the lift configurations. You can have up to 10 different lift configurations for the lift control by adding an item on the left column and configuring each lift. The scroll bar grid in the middle section generally represents the number of lifts in each configuration. Scrolling to the right will increase the number of build levels or lifts, while scrolling to the left decreases the number of lifts. The different settings for the build level or lift are shown in the lift control grid below that. The very fast build level, 001, normally should have the spacing of 0 since it's the bottom lift. And every build level that is also at the level of a lift or deck should have the transom or bearer ticked on. The last column on this grid is the overall height of the scaffold, including the jacks. For each of the lifts, we have the flexibility to choose the spacing or number of nodes from the previous build level, the type of deck, be it steel, wood, or no deck. The spacing is also important because it defines the distance from the previous lift to the current lift. In normal scaffolds, it's generally 4 nodes, that is 2 meters or 6 foot 7 inches, from the previous lift to the current lift. However, lift control allows you to change this. The handrails and the physicians, side decks, as well as the option to add features such as mid handrail, added 1 node above the deck level, and top handrail 2 nodes above the deck level. If a double handrail is required, please tick both mid handrail and top handrail. Mesh guard or wire fence will be added 2 nodes above the current deck level. You should generally tick the toe boards where there is a deck. I am now going to finish setting up the rest of the build levels with the appropriate components. We will speed up this video for the purpose of this demo. Notice that lift 2 contains a normal deck, toe boards, and handrails. Lift 3 contains ledges and transoms with no decks, no toe boards, and no handrails. Lift 4 is only 2 nodes farther up from lift 3 and contains a normal deck, toe boards, and handrails. Lift 5 contains ledges and transoms with no decks, no toe boards, and no handrails. Lift 6 is only 2 nodes farther up from lift 5 and contains a normal deck, toe boards, and handrails. When complete, click OK and the Define Lift screen will close. Now that we have completed setting up the lift control, we can go into the Edit Wall details to make iScaf build using the lift control settings. I will now add a section so that we can see that it will be built according to the lift control settings that we have just set up. To add a section, we will first go into the Edit Plan mode and select Add, then Section, and it will create a section. We will then click on the Default Options button and give it a description. In this case, we will call it AA section, then click OK, and a section will be created. Go into the Edit Plan, Edit Wall Details. Tick the checkbox that says Lift Control and change the drop-down menu selection from Disabled to the desired lift configuration. These settings will override the settings in the iScaf setup if the checkbox Build 3D using these settings is switched on. While not using lift control, it is important to turn off this checkbox. The lift control builds from bottom up, unlike the normal build, which builds from the top. From here, you have the option to apply this lift control settings to a selection of multiple walls by selecting Apply to Selection, or apply these changes to an individual wall by selecting Apply to Wall. iScaf will use the settings of the top handrail section in the General Setup or Edit Wall Details. It is very important to ensure that you save your plan prior to building to 3D, as you will not be able to make any changes to your plan after building to 3D. Now that we have saved our plan, we can now build it to 3D. Once it's done building to 3D, we can load the section by clicking on this icon to view and check that it has been built just as we wanted. As you can see, iScaf has successfully built it according to how we defined the lift control settings. One final important note: if lift control is required for the majority of the walls in your drawing, it would be better to select the lift control configuration by going into the iScaf setup, then Other Setup, and changing the lift control selection from Disabled to the desired lift control configuration prior to building any bays. Thank you for watching.